In favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Not to say all opposed? I don't think anyone's opposed. Okay, before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. All these meetings are recorded and posted to YouTube, so just keep that in mind when we are speaking. And I'll pass it over to Misa for attendance.
Thank you, Wafa. All right, here we go, everyone. Alyssa,
Here.
Ari,
Here.
thank you. Ayu,
Here.
thank you so much. Brandon, okay. Brianna,
Here.
thank you. Kami,
Here.
thank you. Carolina,
Hi. Here.
thank you so much. Erica,
Hi, Misa. I'm here.
thank you, Erica. Jane,
Here.
awesome, thank you. Jaslyn,
Here.
great. Jessica,
Here.
perfect. Johnny,
Hi, Misa. I'm here.
thank you, Johnny. Judy, okay. Juliana,
Here.
thank you, Juliana. Keith,
Here.
thank you. Kelsey,
Here.
thank you, Kelsey. Mariana,
Hi, I'm here. I'm on campus, but I'm here.
okay, thank you. Mason, okay. Miranda Garcia,
Here.
perfect. Robbie, Saba,
Here.
am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, you are. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wapa, oh, you are here because you started the meeting. Wesley,
Hi, Misa. I'm here.
thank you so much, Wesley. Marcus, okay. And I saw that Francesca said that she is here on the group chat. Perfect. Theodora, okay.
Here.
That's a yes for Theodora. LaShawn, okay. Thank you so much. Wapa, back to you.
Hello.
Awesome, thank you. Next, can we pass it to Jessica for Vincentian story?
Hi, everybody. So for today's Vincentian story, I was very inspired by our last GP where students came in to ask our VP candidates of like what they want to see, like ask for initiatives. And I was like very inspired by that just because like they are coming to us, but then also that was like a good reminder that although it is amazing for some of the students or the constituents like come to us if they have any concerns, it's also and even more like equally important for us to reach out to them first. So I have this quote from Frederick Ozanam, who was one of the founders of the St. Vincent de Paul Society back in the day. If you also heard of the news, they changed the name of Clifton Fullerton Hall to Ozanam Hall or Ozanam Building, I think, at the university. So that's because of him. So he has this quote. I can also send it in the chat. Give me a second, and I can also read it for people. So it says, "We are convinced that a knowledge of social reforms is to be learned not so much by pondering over books or by discussions among politicians, as by going to visit the garrets in which the poor live, by sitting at the bedside of the dying, by feeling the cold which they feel, and by learning from their own lips the causes of their woes." And for me personally, I the last phrase of just him saying, by learning from their own lips the causes of their woes, is just very like significant, and it's something that I want to ponder on in terms of like my leadership style, and just like reflect on this idea that the most effective way probably for me to learn or understand what my constituents are going through is if I heard from them directly, as if their concerns came from firsthand information. So moving forward, I will try to be more intentional in doing that, especially now that everything is virtual and we don't see our student like this our fellow students, our constituents as much as we would want them to. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you, Jessica. Now I'll pass it to Erica for formation.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to check in and discuss what we're all going to be excited for come November break. Although it is only week 4, it's literally midterms week next week. So, Alyssa, can you put everybody in breakout rooms, please?
For sure. So cool. I think it has started. Oh no, I didn't. Now it is.
All right, is everyone back? I think that's everybody. Thank you for that awesome formation, Erica. Next, we're gonna move on to the Vice President's report. I know it's really early, but I can't stay for the whole meeting, so we're gonna do it really quick, and then I'm gonna pass the gavel figuratively over to Alyssa. But so in terms of Vice President report, first of all, thank you guys for electing me as your VP. I know this is like a very awkward first meeting for me. I'm in the car right now, but I just hope you guys can like trust me and come to me with anything that you guys are concerned about or anything you guys want to tell me. The first thing I wanted to mention is GB retreat. So we talked about that last week in our meeting. That is going to be October 24th. So mark that in your calendars, October 24th from 10 to 2. And the reason I'm mentioning it now is because I also want everyone's like feedback on what they want to see in GB retreat. So for those of you that don't know what it is, it's basically this like workshop meeting that we have where, you know, we do icebreakers. We talk about things like on how we can improve in the way that we serve the student body at DePaul. So if there's something that you're unfamiliar with or something you want like us to discuss, whether that's like Robert's Rules of Order or like how to get a flyer made and all that kind of stuff, I'm gonna like send a survey and you guys could fill that out saying what you want to see, and then we'll try to get as much of it implemented as possible. So what was the day and time? Oh, sorry. It is, what did I say? October 24th from 10 to 2. So yeah, it's a Saturday. Thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, the next thing is CRB. So CRB is constitutional revisions. We have them every quarter, and there's also another form. So you're gonna get 2 Google Forms sent either tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And it's basically your chance to go through something that like maybe there's the grammar error revision, and then we are going to vote on those towards the end of October. So yes, no, I can't see the chat, sorry. Okay, I don't think there's any questions. If you have any, please feel free to Slack me. The next update I had was about the I am DePaul comments I sent in our Slack. I was supposed to meet with the people for the account today. They canceled, so I don't really have an update on that right now, but for those of you that like checked in and followed up with me, thank you, I'm doing fine. And yeah, I hope to have an update for you guys on that by our next meeting, which won't be next week because we're off for midterms, but Alyssa will talk about that later. Other than that, thank you guys. I'm so sorry to leave, but I will hand it over to Alyssa now for the remainder of the meeting.
Cool, thank you, Wakfa. So now I guess I'm chairing the meeting again. So the next thing we have on our agenda is Catherine from Title IX. She'll be coming to speak to us about some updates with that policy and also gain our feedback from some of that information that she'll share with us. I want to mention again, to reiterate, that the meetings are recorded and posted on YouTube, but we will designate a part of this discussion to be not recorded, just so that if any folks have anything that they want to share with everyone, but don't feel comfortable doing so while it's being recorded, we will turn that off for that moment. So I'm passing it off to Catherine. Thank you for joining us today.
Sure. Thank you for having me. And I'm sorry to bomb the breakout rooms there for whatever breakout group I was bombing. I didn't mean to. So this is my first time ever being with SGA, and doing it in this format is a little unusual, but I'm really pleased to have been invited. I thought a little bit about what we might talk about today, and one thing that came to me was, I don't think anyone here is looking for another PowerPoint after a day of classes in PowerPoint. Is that fair to say? Maybe just a quick dialogue, and maybe to the extent that you all are comfortable in active discussion. Does that sound like a fair idea, President Alyssa? Okay, thank you. So I'm coming at you live from my remote office in Park Ridge. I'm representing the Title IX office, which at DePaul is actually called the Office of Gender Equity, because we do a lot more than just deal with Title IX. I was wondering if people would be comfortable giving me an idea, because I know you're all from all over the place and all different backgrounds, but if you could give me, how about on a scale of 1 to 10, what familiarity you have with this idea of Title IX and sex-based harassment, just from your where you come from in life. So 10 being, I could come work in your office tomorrow, I'd be happy to do so, and 0 being, I'm really interested in starting from scratch. So I'm seeing some people saying a fairly high number. Okay.
Well, there's been those posters that's like the picture of the girl on the park bench, that's
Yep.
yellow, that
Yep.
have literally they have not been redesigned in over a decade. So yeah, I've read that a few times, and the various gender studies, feminist classes talk about some of the power differentials.
Super.
But, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And I saw some people gave me some fingers, not the finger, but some fingers to show me where they come from. So thank you. And just to let you know, I'm so glad you brought up that poster. That does not come from our office. That comes from the Illinois.
Oh, I saw it at community college as well. I figured it was not you guys.
Yeah, there's actually going to be a new one coming out this year that we selected. I know that we selected a new version that I think has Chuck Taylor shoes. So I think I'll be pretty impressed by that. But thank you very much for sharing that. And you know, I'm not looking today to do anything that that would be, I hope isn't triggering for anyone. I just sort of want to share a little bit about our office and get a discussion going to the extent that people are comfortable about some of the new regulations that have come out from the Department of Education that we're responsible for enforcing. So if there is something that's challenging for folks, if we do have some Q&A, like Alyssa said, we can pause the recording, or we can, I'm happy to speak to anyone one-on-one. I'm not looking for this to be challenging at 6:20 on a Thursday afternoon, okay? So when people think about our office, I think that they may know that we work in when we're back in school, we work on the 3rd floor in the Student Center in the Dean of Students Suite. And we work on cases and allegations involving not just students, but also faculty and staff. What I want to make sure that I make clear to this group of prominent student leaders is that probably half of what we do in the Office of Gender Equity is about support and resources. If I were to draw a chart to show the functions of our area, probably what you think the most about is what we do the least. And my guess is what you think the most about is an investigation. And I would estimate our investigations are 10% of what we do. When we talk to folks about reporting instances that people reveal that they've experienced sexual misconduct and we ask them to share that with our office. The main point of that is for us to be able to target support to that person and then let them be where they are in their journey and not involve investigators or anything else unless it's something that the party who experienced misconduct wants. So if there's anything that I would ask you to help us with the most in your role, it's to dispel that point of view that, you know, it's our dream to investigate a case. It probably isn't. It's more powerful for us when we can help someone with resources, care, and academic support. So I hope that would make sense to you, and I hope that you can help us with that message to the extent possible. We do a lot of trainings with student leaders, with responsible employees around campus. Probably if you're in the Greek system, if you're a student worker in a department that employs a lot of student workers like the Ray, you've heard our training. I would estimate that that's probably about 25% of what we do. Just letting people know about our services, how important it is for us, how important being part of student affairs is to us, such that we're trying to convey that we are really focused on students, even though we have a charge to enforce policies that relates to everyone, as I just mentioned. But we really want our training to be helpful to students and not just be for its own sake. So when we go into places that have student leaders, we want to be able to talk about scenarios that are really applicable to all of you and not just talk about something that seems like it makes sense as a good case study, but it doesn't really resonate. So I wanted to start there and just remind you that if someone came to us and was really struggling with having been a person who experienced any kind of sexual misconduct, we would take them where they are and ask them what kind of support we could provide. So maybe that's an academic accommodation. Maybe in a different scenario, someone's experiencing pregnancy, we could support them in their academics there. We could support people who are newly parenting students, things of that nature. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the dialogue about the other part of our office. So I've talked to Alyssa a little bit about maybe we could do some sort of training for your group. And, you know, selfishly, I'd like to learn from you all about what you think would resonate with students these days in these weird times. A lot of people think that, pardon me, that we're just kind of, you know, we work a couple hours a day because we're not dealing with any misconduct. And the truth of the matter is we still are. With all the protections that we have for online learning, we still have people who don't want to abide by the guidelines that we have. I'm going to cough for a second here. And we still have people that are unclear about what DePaul's expectations are for students during remote times. And I didn't bring any water with me, so I'm going to cough again. Sorry about that. But the most important thing that I wanted to speak with you all about today is some of the confusion and concern that I know students have because of changes to one of the statutes that we are responsible for enforcing. So David mentioned the posters, and those are an outgrowth of the Illinois protection for students statute that they have, and wanting to make sure that students know that they shouldn't have to put up with harassment or other types of sex-based misconduct. But Title IX is the federal law that is trying to ensure that you have access to your education free from concerns about sexual harassment and sexual assault on campus. And so I don't know if anyone here is in the poli-sci world, women's studies, law, pre-law, anything like that, or has a particular interest in Title IX, but the department, a little bit, okay. The Department of Education came out in August with some new rules that apply to very specific types of cases that they are mandating that we follow And my biggest concern about them is that it could have a chilling effect on students reporting misconduct because of fears about how it will play out. So I didn't know, is that something that anyone here is familiar with when I'm talking about? And have you heard students talking about concerns about that, particularly concerns about survivors being treated differently?
Not optimistic with anything that Betsy DeVos does, but there's this ominous, there's changes, and I just can't imagine that they're good, given who's making them.
Anyone else have something they're willing to share? I got caught in the hailstorm driving home today, so I'm like adjusting my home office as we're speaking. So anyone else just want to throw something in the chat about anything that they've heard or that others are talking about when it comes to this? Do me this favor, if you would, throw in the chat if anyone you know has ever used our services at DePaul since you've been here. So not you, but anyone that you know. Just what's your level of exposure with our office, if you wouldn't mind, just to help me help you. Not DePaul, okay. Some of you know, okay. Okay, I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. I'm not trying to out anybody. So thank you so kindly for sharing. So right now, if I may, if one of you reported that a friend had experienced sexual assault or sexual harassment, let's say on spring break, okay? You went on spring break with a bunch of DePaul students and an incident happened that seemed to rise to a level of perhaps being a violation of our existing policies here at DePaul. So we enforce our student code of conduct, which includes policies preventing sexual misconduct and sexual harassment among students. Okay, so in my hypothetical, that student says he or she wants to move forward with an investigation. The other party is also a DePaul student. So we would investigate that case, and it would, if the parties cooperated and the student who made the report wanted to continue with the investigation, they could say that they don't want to, they just wanted to get support. But let's say that they did want to go forward with an investigation, that would end with the student conduct process that many students go through for a variety of things, whether it's an alcohol violation or any number of violations of the student code. With the new Title IX regulations, my scenario is an example of something that the Department of Education says the Title IX office should not investigate because it happened off campus and it happened outside of DePaul's programs and activities. So they would like us to stay out of the business of investigating that kind of conduct and leave that to law enforcement, okay? However, we still have our student code, right? And so we would still, if someone wanted to pursue that, we would still investigate that as a potential violation of DePaul policy, regardless of what, as David says, Betsy DeVos or the Department of Education says, and they allow us to do that. So I think the number one myth that I want to dispel is that in a scenario like that, it's not like we would turn a blind eye to that conduct. We would defer to what that student wanted, and if he or she wanted us to move forward, we would, okay? What the other piece is that isn't as good of news, that is gonna be different, and I wanna be really straightforward with you all about this, is a scenario that we have today where a student reports that kind of misconduct that's in the poster, right? So the conduct that's complained of in the poster says something like, she says I have to sleep with her to get an A, right? Doesn't it say something sort of explicit like that?
Yeah, the scenarios are that sort of scenario. Yeah.
Right.
I haven't actually looked at closely in probably like 10 years, but it's kind of, yeah.
You've been a student for a long time, David. I'm just
I've
kidding. I'm
been
just
around.
kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing you. So in that scenario where a student came forward and said a professor had engaged in that type of behavior, where what we call it quid pro quo harassment, like what you would see in a workplace where someone says, you have to do this or you don't get promoted. You have to do this or your grade's going to be impacted. Right now, the way we would process something like that is we would investigate, and then the Title IX coordinator, who is me, that's the other part of my title, would render a decision based on the investigation. We wouldn't have a hearing. We wouldn't have that student who has, as you all know, a power disparity with the faculty member. We wouldn't have that student have to participate in a hearing. The Department of Education says that in a way to protect students, in a case like that, a student would have to participate in a hearing. So now, hold on. So that, of course, is something that perhaps could have a chilling effect on someone wanting to report that conduct. But by the same token, there are times where students really want to face down a faculty member and say, you know what, I can't believe you did this to me. Now, I'm not saying that that's always the case. I'm not saying that that's the outcome that I would be looking for in thinking about what a great way of adjudicating conduct like that would be. But we are faced with the federal government telling us that we do have to treat that differently. So we just want my worst case scenario for any student who comes to us with some kind of conduct that they report that's really impactful to them is that they're blindsided, that they don't know how we're going to manage something, and then we think that they know, and then down the road they say, wait a minute, I didn't understand that. That actually is more trauma inducing to me because you blindsided me. And so I don't know how many cases like this we're going to get in the coming year. I would tell you that probably last year, if we had 5 of them that went from start to finish with an investigation that that ended with my making a decision, that probably sounds like a fair number. But you know, I don't want 5 people to be blindsided. I don't want 5 people to feel like we didn't do right by them because we didn't do a good job explaining it on the front end. So that's where I'm looking for you all to help me think through what might be a good way for us to partner with SGA to make sure that students are informed. And you know what? There's going to be students who are really mad about this, and I get it. We're going to do our best to mitigate some of the negative consequences of some of this, but there are some positive consequences of some of this too. There are some additional due process protections that we're going to have to give people to make sure that they're clear at every juncture about having an advisor, having someone to give them good advice. Sometimes we have students participate in this process and I'm begging them to get an advisor and they never do. And it really concerns me because it's such a stressful time, no matter what party you are. Sometimes I worry about people that we interview as witnesses because it's very challenging to participate in something like this when you're trying to be in school and work a job and, you know, live your life. So I wouldn't want you to hear that I'm telling you this is a doom and gloom situation, because some of these things we can manage them. They're fine. I think we already have a really good student conduct process, and the people that I work with in the Dean of Students are top-notch professionals. At least in the time that I've been in this role at DePaul, I can tell you that wholeheartedly. But I do know that this is really scary, and it's something that people dread having to deal with. And so I just wonder if you all would be willing to share any feedback or thoughts, or maybe, you know, meet without me here and brainstorm about what would be appropriate for us to do to work with you if you're interested. And, you know, gosh, you have one or two things on your agenda, don't you, Alyssa, of things that you're dealing with, that students are dealing with. I understand it. I understand to some degree. I'm not walking in your shoes, but I'm sure it's very, very challenging to prioritize. But I do want you to know that we would really value your feedback and your good thoughts.
Thank you. David has his hand up.
Okay.
So
What is your role with SGA? Do you mind sharing?
I am a student. who
Student at
showed up
large, okay.
Because I like watching things and
Love it.
like conversations.
Okay, thank you.
So I was just thinking something that I didn't realize they could do was this quarter there was that mandatory SCORM component on D2L, SCORM being the technology for the safe campus thing about like, you know, you have a sore throat, what should you do? And then multiple choices. So basically, and you had to like page through every single thing. It was very similar to when I did like food safety training when I worked at a grocery store years ago, where they tell you a whole bunch of things that you think are pretty obvious and you're like, people don't realize this, but everyone has to page through every single thing and then you have to answer every single question correctly before you can move forward. And I think something like that goes through what the rules are and also what would happen, what the university would do in a handful of representative scenarios. Just because, I mean, like, I've never gone through any formal training about that. I mean, I've read the poster, I've been through courses that have outlined the gender components and other social justice components, but I've never gone through any formal training. And honestly, I have no idea what the university's processes are. I've read about stuff happening at other schools and about things not going well at other schools. I've seen fictional representations, but I really don't have any idea what the university's policies are on that and the processes are in any concrete sense. And the whole like being safe on campus thing was really, really slickly produced. And that's for, you know, a once in a lifetime thing. And this is something that, you know, we're gonna have to deal with pretty much indefinitely. So let's say, why not use that same kind of technology? And then no one can say they didn't know the rules, and no one can say that the information wasn't available to them if it's like, you know, particularly if it's a slickly produced kind of thing like the safe campus thing was.
Right. Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like it. Ariel? Ariel, were you trying to speak?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
One more thing about that. I was thinking, contrasting that to the poster. The poster is very, very passive. I mean, it's in like every other elevator on campus, but you just kind of tune it out after a while. And also, like, you know, we sign stuff at paper like during orientation and nobody reads half of that. And the making people click through actively and then answer multiple choice questions correctly is very much like you actually had to read it and you were tested on it. You actually know it versus a lot of the other stuff. I mean, like the very passive, like even making people sign for something that no one actually reads when they have to sign a thick stack of, I sign, I have received the lead paint disclosure. That's the, you know, the very passive thing is it's kind of like, well, we can say that we did something, but it doesn't actually necessarily do anything. Like, well, we can, you signed that you got it. So it's not our problem if you didn't get it, versus like actually forcing people to step through it is very much like, no, really, they actually, you know, they knew.
Right. Thank you. I know that when people come in their first quarter, as part of Chicago quarter, I think you do the EverFi training. It's conducted by an outside organization. Is anyone a new student this year or a new graduate student this year?
I was a transfer. I didn't have anything like that.
Yeah, I think you slipped through as a transfer. Yeah.
For me, I am a first year student, and we definitely had to take that. That was an assignment. We had to even like show a screenshot, but we did go through something like that where it was like multiple choice and we had to do a whole training thing. But I'm pretty sure that people throughout the years might forget that. I don't know if that's a yearly thing, but I did take that very recently.
Yeah. And I actually took it myself too, and I noticed there's so much before you even begin the content that's in that survey mode of what is your attitude, and I didn't know if people found that helpful or like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
It's cool to hear that there is something.
It was a lot, but it was really important, I feel, and I really hope that people took the time to really digest all the information there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. I was just looking at one other, there are a couple of people coming in on their own chats, which is good. So two other quick things, one which is coming through on the chat, but a couple areas that our office does focus on in our work are things that wouldn't fall under that. You know, when people think about sexual assault and they think about a stranger on the train or something like that. And I worry that, I think to what David was alluding to as well, in terms of what are DePaul policies. We handle, and I don't mean to steal your whole agenda tonight, Alyssa, forgive me, but we do manage allegations that people have done other things like, being a stalker in a workplace where people can't take no for an answer. You ask someone out 3 times and they say no 3 times, and you ask them 30 more times. So those are also considered potential violations of our policy. We deal quite frequently with people who have images that they sent to that one special person that when the relationship went sour, that image went global. Things like that are also part of what I hope was included in the EverFi content. So, we could come in another time and talk about, dig deep, a little bit deeper, and just make sure that we do talk about what's in that policy. It's probably not your dream topic for another Thursday night, but I'm very willing to do that in the interest of knowing how important you guys are as leaders. The last piece I just want to quick close with is making certain that this group understands that at DePaul, we do have a responsible employee policy, which says that if you were to disclose something to a non-confidential reporter that you experienced misconduct, or someone you know who's a DePaul student experienced misconduct, they would be obligated to share that with our office, with the idea that we would provide that support I talked about at the beginning of my presentation. So I think that's really hard, especially in this environment where you trust someone and you're experiencing something and you disclose it to them and they say, oh my gosh, I have to report that. And it might feel like a violation of trust for them to do that, but they are mandated as employee of DePaul University to do that. Anyone who works for the university, regardless of what their level of authority is, has to do that. So I share that with you not to, again, have you not trust to disclose to someone when you are looking for help, but to remind you that we've got some confidential resources on campus that wouldn't have to disclose. And at DePaul, those areas are the counseling center, which is also operating remotely, the health promotion and wellness area, which is operating remotely, pardon me, and then university ministry when they're operating within a counseling role. So if you had someone who worked for UMin and they were teaching a class, they're operating in a faculty role. But if you were to meet with them on a one-on-one basis in a counseling role, they also could keep that confidential. So I think that's a really hard one to explain to people. But when you think about it, it's also to provide that care and not do more than that unless the control is in that person's hands to choose when they want to do that. Okay. So forgive me if I went into a little more detail than you were looking for, Alyssa. I just wanted to make sure that I got good use of my time with you. Our policy where we incorporate the new regulations is going to go before the policy review committee that I think, Alyssa, you'll come to at the end of October as part of shared governance. So I'm happy to meet with you one-on-one and make sure that I kind of go through it with you if you'd like. I'm happy to talk to any of you all one-on-one. Title IX coordinator at DePaul.edu is my email address, Title IX Roman numeral 9. And again, I really value your feedback. I know we didn't have a lot of context for jumping into this fun topic, but thank you again for allowing me to be with you tonight.
Thank you. I really appreciate that you took the time to come and speak with all of us. Can we pause the recording really quick? Because I know that I said I'd leave a space for, well, thanks y'all. So again, if you, oh, can we, cool, the recording's going on again. So if you guys have anything that you would like to add, just let me know and I can message her, or you can message her directly so that everything can remain confidential. So next, very exciting thing on our agenda, we can finally confirm our last staff position. Oh, there's no email. I believe she said it was Title IX at DePaul.edu, but I'll double check and I'll send it in the Slack.
I just sent it in the chat.
Oh, cool. Coordinator was what I was missing. Thank you. So the next thing on our agenda is we're finally going to confirm, or hopefully pending approval, confirm Jane for election coordinator. So yeah, is Jane there? Is there anything you'd like to share about why you want to be election coordinator? I know that you've already been doing a lot of work for that because we're in the middle of election season. Did she disappear? Okay. Oh, I see.
What a great time for my Wi-Fi to go completely out, literally immediately. So sorry about that. Hi.
Hi, you're good. Would you like to share about why you want to be election coordinator?
Sure. So I applied for elections coordinator back in May, and I had always wanted to be part of SGA. I had come to like one GB, I think, but I had always wanted to be part of it. I'm really passionate about student government and making change for the university. I think that there's a lot to be done. And in my experience, having been to our cabinet meeting since July, I have absolutely loved it. And the whole elections process right now has been a lot of fun for me. I've really enjoyed it. I love having my elections board, and we had our first info session yesterday. I've been working really, really hard on it. So I really encourage you to confirm me. I think that would be really nice. I've worked really hard and I'm really passionate about everything. So yeah.
Thanks, Jane. Are there any questions or any motions? Oh, okay, we have Wesley.
Hello. I have a couple questions. They're just things that I'm curious about or your opinion on to a degree, related to the elections. So in the past, SGA has been, it is up to the elections coordinator if we release vote totals. That is like how many people voted for this person versus that person. In terms of that can help transparency if we actually know how far it was when it won, or if it was even just how many people voted for whom. And that's something that I personally, I'm of the opinion that we should release them. So I was curious if you plan on releasing those vote totals, or if you're gonna, we kind of last year we didn't release them. I think in the past couple of years we have, but 3 years ago, or maybe sooner than that, I think we've released them in the past. So it's kind of really up to EOB and kind of your discretion. So I was just curious what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that I'd want to bring up to EOB. Considering I haven't experienced elections in the past, that's something that I'd want to talk about with EOB. I'm not sure what the benefits of showing the voting results would be of the different numbers. I don't know if that's completely necessary, but it's definitely something that I will absolutely look into if you're interested in that. I'll definitely talk to EOB about it. We're meeting on Saturday, so if that's something that people are interested in hearing about, that's something that I will 100% bring up.
Thank you. Wesley, did you have any other questions?
I do, but Juliana has one in the chat, so I don't know
Okay,
if Juliana
cool.
wants to say it or you can read it.
I can read it. So it's just basically, can you describe your responsibilities and duties as election coordinator for folks who may not know what that is?
Yes, so the elections coordinator, essentially I coordinate all of our elections. So we have elections in the fall and in the spring for the students or for the positions that are open on the general body. So for this quarter, we have a bunch of senatorial positions open for first year students and as well as representing different colleges. So senator for College of Communications or College of Education, etc. So we have 9 open positions this quarter, and then we also will have spring elections. I also am the chairwoman for our elections operations board, and that is where we essentially will manage the elections and see how they're going, be updating our spreadsheets on how many signatures students have, be speaking, communicating and engaging with students and candidates. And so it's kind of a process that takes a lot of, I guess, patience and ability to communicate, and it's something that I've really enjoyed. And so it's a lot of, I guess it's kind of some admin work. So I'm always doing some emailing and talking with different people that I've never really met before. So doing some community engagement as well, but also coordinating and making sure that dates and, times and everything that are going to be aligning with the university. So that's kind of a little bit about what I do. And then there was another question in the chat.
Cool, thanks. Going back to Wesley.
Cool. This is a kind of a really general question. I think that's one that we're going to be talking about a lot, even just this year, is how do you plan on increasing voter turnout? So last spring, by my best estimate, we had like less than 4% of student body voting, which that's okay for most student governments. They only get maybe less than 10%, but having only 4% is pretty low. I mean, personally, my goal would be 10% just because that's the average. But 4% is evidently not representative of our entire student body. I mean, that's just, to me, obviously, yes, the elections are legitimate, but in terms of getting wider voter turnout, I'm not expecting you to get to 10%, but do you have any plans on increasing voter turnout? Or, obviously it's also harder because we're in COVID, but I'm just curious if you have any plans for that.
Yeah, so I think that, I'm personally really a huge advocate for voting in general. And I think that as a student body, it's something that students should be passionate about having representatives that are, that speak well to their group. And so I think that that's really an important thing. And so I personally reached out to professors to have them share our flyers and the information, and I'm not sure if the email that is sent to the entire student body is effective enough. I think that it is something that all of us, since we're on the student body, or since we're on, we all have these positions. I think it's our obligations to spread that word and get that out there and communicate with the people that we know. And not just that, but our professors and the people that we have really good relationships with. I think that we do absolutely need to get the voter turnout or percentage completely up. I think that, less than 4% of students, that's not as best as we could be. And I think that, for now, I think it's just kind of community engagement, trying to engage our students and talk to them. I know that it's really hard just to do it over the phone because students don't really know. All they're getting is an email from SGA telling them that there are elections. And, I think that 4% is so not great, but I think that at some point, if we really do what we can to spread that word and encourage others, and maybe be posting on our social media more, we could probably, make it a little bit higher, but I think it really does depend on, so many different factors, and like how many students are in each body. I think that it's different for a certain group of, let's say, like veteran students versus the College of Education, like two completely separate groups that are voting. So I think that those can be kind of, what's the word, like tailored to those students. So I think that there are good ways for certain representatives to find like ways that they could like reach out to those certain groups in general.
Thank you. Okay, Wesley, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I have one. I think I have one more. I might have more, but I just have one more that was like totally. I was like, I gotta ask this. So obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, last year we kind of had a community and elections coordinator as opposed to splitting them off this year. So kind of when we were talking about in cabinet back in the spring, we mentioned that we were going to have like the elections coordinator kind of help after the elections because there's obviously no elections in the winter. What would someone do during the entire winter? So we kind of went, they'll go and help with community engagement. So I was curious if you have any, like, frankly, if you have done so much with elections, then I totally would get if you haven't thought about it. But what role do you kind of see yourself serving in kind of assisting with community engagement once the winter comes?
Yeah, I think I would love to work with Jaslyn about community engagement. I have been involved in different areas at DePaul. I was in a sorority here at DePaul. I also worked with I worked as an orientation leader up in new student family engagement. I also have connections in the admissions office, and so just in different areas. And so I would love to be able to reach out to different communities, and maybe from the fall election to the spring election, we can see a bunch of increase in not only votes, but in engagement with students. I think this is going to be a really long year and a progressive year, I sure hope. So I'm going to do as best I can to not just stop being elections coordinator for the winter. That's not an option for me whatsoever. Absolutely going to be prioritizing SGA at all times, whether or not there's an election going on. Going to be doing as best I can to stay, engaged and talking with other communities around DePaul.
Cool, thank you.
Cool, thank you. Are there any other questions for Jane? Or any motions to vote, possibly by acclamation, or motions for discussion? Oh, okay, I see Johnny.
If no one has any more questions, motion to move to discussion.
Oh, that's what it is, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Okay.
Me, can we just motion to vote by acclamation?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Sorry, I apologize. I forgot. So the other one passed, right? Because okay, sorry, Robbie. So the other one passed, so we're gonna go to discussion first.
All right.
My bad. So give me 1 second. I hope this is everyone. Yes. Beautiful. Congrats, Jane. You're our elections coordinator. So,
yay, thanks everybody.
Okay, so next we will move on. Now we're officially, I think, done with all of the beginning of the year things that we have to get done. So this is great. It's funny because it's already midterms next week, and we're just finishing up our beginning of the year things. But yes, let's move on to our next thing on our agenda. We'll actually move on to the president's report. And I'm going to talk about the SGA website first. So if you didn't know, or well, you should know because Courtney mentioned it last week, but we are officially moving to a DHub managed website, and she went through it and kind of explained what all that meant last week. So the only thing is, sorry, let me just check. So just wanted to give you guys an update that we are going to officially have that website public sometime next week. And so if EVPs specifically could send descriptions of their committees, that would be appreciated. Or like any updates that you have, just send it to me, Courtney, and Ari so that we can get that on the page. Also, make sure that your D-Hub photos are updated so that when they appear on the page, it'll be your photo. And we have a lot of things up on that website. So a lot of updates and places that we can add information on so that the student body can know what's going on with student government. So if you have any information that you want to add on that, please let me, Ari, or Courtney know, because we're working on that website. Any updates that you have about any initiatives that you're working on, let your EVP know so that your EVP can provide those updates, and then also put a description of what your committee is. I believe there's also some ad hoc committees. I think the only one we voted for so far is sustainability. So if there's any for that, we also have a working group, the SGA IRMA working group. So if you guys would be able to send me descriptions of those groups as well, that would be really appreciated. So it's exciting because that is launching soon. Okay, next I also wanted to talk about OSI's voter registration competition, and just wanted to see if anyone, oh, okay, cool, thanks Wesley, I saw the chat. If anyone is interested in that OSI voter registration competition, it's for student organizations, and groups will basically be given a turbo vote link to share with members, and the group with the most registration, they win a prize. Registration deadline is tonight, so I wanted to bring that up with you guys. If anyone is interested in joining that competition, then I can sign us up, and it would be from Monday to Thursday of next week. So, I mean, does anyone have any thoughts? Anyone want to join? Anyone not want to join? Just let me know. If you guys could raise your hands or like put it in the chat, just let me know if this is something you guys are interested in. I am going to assume no unless someone tells me that they're interested in it. So next, I'd like to talk about Listen, Learn, Change, which is going to be happening on October 7th at 6 p.m., which is a Wednesday. DAB Social Change is collaborating with Chicago Votes and SGA to talk about the importance of speaking out and getting civically engaged. And so we have a couple members here in SGA who will be speaking as panelists on that, which is Misa, Ari, and Watfa, if you guys are still available. And yeah, if you guys are free at 6 p.m. on Wednesday of next week, please watch them and support them. And it's going to be exciting. So I just wanted to promote that because 3 of our members here will be talking on that panelist. The next thing I'd like to talk about is that on October 8th, which is next week, next Thursday, we do not have a GB meeting that day because it is midterm. So per our constitution, we all take 1 week. We don't necessarily take a week off of SGA, right? Because we're always working and moving forward with our initiatives. But in terms of a whole general body meeting, since we usually block out 2 to 3 hours on a Thursday night, use that time to study or to relax and take a break. I don't know about you guys, but this quarter has been really heavy and sorry. So if you guys, sorry. There's a meeting on October 8th, so just keep that in mind. For cabinet, I don't know if you guys saw my Slack, but we also will not be meeting on Monday. So good luck with midterms, y'all. It's crazy because it's already next week. The next thing I'd like to talk about is Day of Action to support undocumented students. So if you don't know, October 13th is a day of action for immigrants. And so what DePaul is doing and what SGA will be collaborating with OMSS in is that on October 13th, we plan on making videos similar to Seeds of the Mission campaign. So I'm asking all of you guys, or not all of you guys, if you're capable and if you're willing to participate in this and standing with undocumented students on that day, please send me a video before next week, October 9th. And I will put this I'll actually put in an email because I have a flyer to attach and more information so that it won't just spam you in your Slack. I'll like send this as an email. But if you're interested in participating in this, please send a video answering one of the 4 questions. So I'll mention them right now, but again, I will add them to an email. So the first one is, what message of encouragement do you have for undocumented students at DePaul? Second question is, how are you willing to support undocumented students? Third, when have you witnessed solidarity for undocumented students? And the fourth one goes back to our famous Vinny question, what must be done for undocumented students? And so I think this is a really great opportunity to stand with our undocumented students here at DePaul. And basically what's going to be happening is, you guys, if you are able to, please send me a video by October 9th. And then on October 13th, we are going to be spamming our Instagram and our Facebook, our social media with these videos to show that we really stand with these students. And of course, it doesn't stop there. We're going to continue doing more work for undocumented students, but I think this is a really great start. So please email me those videos. I will send it again as an email. Another thing is, email me the video, but also email it. I will send you the link. There's a, I believe, national campaign going on. And if you send it to that link, you can get a free t-shirt that says, I stand with immigrants, or I think the second option is, I am an immigrant. So free t-shirts are great, and you get to stand with undocumented students. So I will send that all in the email. If you do go for that link and get a free t-shirt, please indicate that you're doing it part of our student organization, so that it shows that we're here in solidarity, such as DePaul Student Government Association. And let me think. We'll also be using the hashtag DPU stands with undocu. So just so that you guys are aware, if you guys want to repost any of that, please use that hashtag so everyone can find that content in one area on social media. And the last thing I wanted to bring up about that, sorry if I'm talking really fast, I'm like really jittery right now for some reason. But I also wanted to reach out to other student organizations to partner with us in OMSS in this. So I will be reaching out to some of you guys to see if we can partner with other student orgs, or please message me if you think that you have a student org that would be interested in partnering in this, because I think the more student orgs that get involved, the better, because then our social media will really be like just filled with a lot of these videos, because I think the plan is maybe every hour, every 2 hours, release another video. So when you log into your social media, it'll be filled with those videos if a lot of student orgs are really participating. And OMSS will be sharing all those videos as well. So I think this is a really great opportunity. So please, please send me a video if you can. I will be sending in a video. And yeah, it'll start there, but we will do more to support our undocumented students here at DePaul. So wait for that email. I'll send it tomorrow, just so that everyone can get it. I know I said a lot of things in like the past minute, so I don't want anyone to forget anything. So I'll send that out. And I will also reach out to some of you guys who I know are part of student organizations to see if we can collaborate on that further. I will most likely be reaching to a lot of like the cultural orgs, or yeah, reach out to me too if I am forgetting anyone. Thank you. Cool. The last thing that I'd like to talk about in this report is remote learning feedback. So, and we were just talking about this, David, Erica, and I, right before the meeting. But I was we had a joint council meeting today, this morning. And if you guys don't know what joint council is, it's a lot of the head administrators at DePaul, like President Esteban, Provost, Chief of Staffs, like the deans are there. So being part of that conversation, they were asking how remote learning has been going and how we can improve for the winter. And so one of the things that I brought up was that students are really overwhelmed with a lot of course load and like homework right now. And I know that I can't be the only one who's completely like drowning in work and behind on lectures. And I think one of the reasons is because professors have cut down on the amount of meeting times that we've had on Zoom, and they just filled that up with a lot of like lectures to do on our own time. Some people say like busy work, and it's really overwhelming right now. So I know I'm not alone, because my classmates also say the same thing. But I wanted to open this up for discussion because I wanted to hear from you guys how you guys were feeling, so that I can bring it back to this group and say, I'm not alone in what I'm feeling and what I'm saying, because these student representatives are saying the same thing. Because I know someone commented on what I said during the meeting and said that it was just that we had to be doing our lectures on our own time, but I don't think they fully understand that professors are just like giving PowerPoints and expecting us to do it all on our own time. So it's really difficult. So I wanted to open the floor and have a discussion about all of this. And I will be also taking notes so that I can get back to everyone in that group. Sorry, I know I've been talking for a long time, but I'm gonna say one more thing. But specifically two deans have reached out to me, which I really appreciate that they did. And so it was the College of Education. So, and it was SCPS. So I believe it's students for continuing profession. It's like the adult student learners and those who are continuing their professional studies. So those two specifically reached out to see if there were any students in their colleges specifically that were struggling so that they could address that. Cool, thank you. School for Continuing and Professional Studies. So first we'll move to Carolina.
Hi, yeah, I mean, in that crowd of students who are just like overwhelmed with coursework and struggling to just find time to complete it all, especially since I also work outside of going to school. I work part-time, and with the pandemic, I've had to work more hours than I ever have had to before. Calling off has been increasingly difficult. I've been asked to stay overtime, and you know, it's demanding, and I do this every weekend from Friday to Sunday, and you know, in past quarters it was manageable, just because, you know, I had a set schedule and things were predictable. That's no longer an option, and I think a lot of professors forget that there are students who are also essential workers, and I think that's a big issue, is that they assume like, oh, everyone's at home, they have the entire weekend to catch up if they really wanted to. A lot of students don't have that. We don't have that privilege of just being able to stay home and do homework. And that's something that I've realized, you know, thankfully my managers have been understanding and have, you know, worked with me closely in making my schedule as manageable as possible. I just ask the professors do the same. If my managers are willing to do it, why can't my professors? And, you know, for the most part, I've been able to reach out to individual professors and, you know, let them know my situation, and they have been accommodating, but you know, we shouldn't have to go out of our own way to get those accommodations. It should just be a given. And it doesn't help when, you know, a lot of other students are feeling the same way and they probably don't feel as comfortable reaching out. I think that's a big problem.
Thank you. We have Francesca next.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Carolina. Like, I definitely agree with that. And I think that, like, because there's a increased amount of stress for folks, like, especially folks who are working, but even folks who are staying at home, like, this is just, like, people's living situations. We don't know what's going on. So I really do think we should bring this to the attention, like you were saying, Alyssa. However, I do think it is also very important that we come to the table with our problem, but also a solution, because I think if we, like, so I work for one of the departments at DePaul, and personally, my professors are way more understanding and willing to work with their students than I know a lot of other professors are. But I will say, like, that faculty is also, a lot of faculty are making this up on the fly as they go, and they're also like struggling with it. So I think that it's really important that we like enumerate our complaints and make them very specific, and then have like specific solutions to that. So I think like what Carolina was saying is totally right. And like, if we put that solution out as like, you know, professors need to have check-ins with their students like bi-weekly, as long as we're giving like an enumerated list to these, like to the faculty, so they actually know, okay, this is exactly what I need to do. Because I think as much as they can try to address it, I think they also don't have a great idea of what's going on. So like the ways that they might address it might not be what we need. So I think pairing our complaints with like solutions that are tailored to them is really important too, so that we aren't waiting on faculty to come up with solutions on their own, and faculty isn't feeling pressured to like have to do all these things really quickly.
Thank you. Camila?
Yeah, all of this has been very well said. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of breath. I just ran inside to pick up food somewhere. But also discussing the fact that a lot of our classes are being taken with professors who experienced online learning, or who were previously like online professors. I know specifically for 2 of my courses, my professors like were already teaching like online courses even way before COVID. And kind of experiencing that change has not been easy, particularly for me. And I bet for a bunch of other students who don't regularly take online classes. So kind of discussing that as well with flexibility of due dates, to be completely honest. Workload, yes, workload is god awful right now. But they're not even being flexible with due dates. So I think emphasizing that is my biggest concern, and also just that disconnect with professors who have been teaching online and with students who I have never and hopefully will never plan to take online classes.
Thank you. We'll go to Kevin next.
Another thing that I would like highlight is that if when you go to take like an exam, the software that they want you to download onto your computers, make sure they're actually compatible with like that student's computer. Like today I had to go to campus to take an exam for like a class that's supposed to be completely like online. And like, it's okay that like that happened because like I'm close to campus, but like a student who lives in like California or in another country, that's going to be a pretty big problem. And like, how are they supposed to take the exam if the software that they have to download isn't compatible with their computer? Because I had no device to support the information that I had to take this exam. So she's like, well, you can come to campus. And I was like, okay, that's cool, but that's another big thing. So if they are giving their exams, they want students downloading software, make sure it's like user friendly for all devices. And then another thing too is if they are having them download something and then having them require a second device, there are some students who don't have that luxury. So why are you making them go out and find a secondary device when there are some students who are using just their phones to do all of their online coursework?
Well, thank you, Kevin. Next is David.
I am taking all asynchronous classes, and I've been taking asynchronous classes at DePaul for several years as a part-time disabled student. And I have a professor this quarter who doesn't seem to understand the concept of an asynchronous class because he's giving us these tiny little titrated deadlines. And it's kind of like he's saying, well, it's an asynchronous class, but you have to do this material at this time, which kind of misses the point of an asynchronous class. Like the online classes that I've taken in the past, well, generally people take asynchronous online classes because they want to have more flexibility with time. Some people because they're working, other people because I don't know, they're disabled and they just need that flexibility. And it's like, okay, so instead of having all the homework due at the end of the week, you have like 1/5 of the homework due for 5 days in a row or something ridiculous like that. It's like, there's no point in, I mean, like, I like having that week the entire time to manage my own time, especially if my health is unpredictable and I need to be able to do contingency planning. And it's really, really annoying. And I would say I'm actually kind of angry at the professor for not respecting the fact that it's an asynchronous class. He assigned something as part of a participation grade that was due before the quarter even technically started, which is like not even allowed. It's very weird. And when he assigns quizzes, it's like, oh, well, you have 6 hours. And he said that he's being very generous by giving us 6 hours because it's the people who are like working, they might have to, that, you know, 6 hours gives them flexibility. It's like, no, the norm for an asynchronous class is at least 24 hours. If not, some professors will give you like 3 days. Like 6 hours might be a lot more than a synchronous class, but this is not a synchronous class. This is an asynchronous class. There's different standards. So it's like he's treating it like we're in a synchronous class where he is being so generous by giving us slightly more flexibility than a synchronous class while being micromanaging our time, extremely micromanaging our time by the standard of literally every other asynchronous class that I've taken at DePaul, and I have taken at least a dozen, if not like 2 dozen. I don't know, it's been a lot. So I found that very, very frustrating. Actually, more than frustrating, I'm kind of pissed at the professor, and I don't know how to tell him like this is really unusual as far as asynchronous classes are concerned, because I don't want to be rude. It's also just stressful to confront a professor. I don't give him suggestions if he's like doesn't have a lot of experience with this. I don't know, but it's like, how do I? Yeah, I don't know. I want to push back gently without antagonizing the professor, because I mean, even just out of the gate, we're sending us email saying you have to do this before the quarter is even started, and it's for credit. And if you don't do it, I don't take late work. I'm like, that's just not cool. Like it's literally not allowed. And yeah, I don't know.
Thank you for sharing. We'll go to Jaslyn and then we'll go to Francesca.
Well, Cami kind of beat me to it, but I know she was talking about deadlines and like the inflexibility professors have had, which has been really frustrating for me because like some of my professors literally will not like accept late work unless you've like contacted a dean of students or whatever within a week of the assignment, which is like completely unreasonable again, because a lot of us have other jobs and are essential workers, and just don't have a lot of ability to kind of like maneuver around the schedule, even if they are mostly online. I know personally for me, it was a lot easier going to class because I feel like I had a set and like definite schedule. I knew I had this to do at the same time every week. And so it's, yeah, lack of mental health awareness. Yeah, that's also really shitty and annoying. I'm sorry, excuse my language. But that has just been really frustrating as well, because I feel like that adds the inflexibility and the unwillingness to really like work with students adds to the stress that we really don't need right now. So yeah, sorry, that was just my little venting.
Thank you for sharing, Francesca.
Yeah, so like thinking about this, I think also something that we should talk about is we need to get in contact with the dean of students' office, because I know that they're like trying to be as flexible with COVID and everything, but I'm wondering if they have established like a task force just for like mediation between students and their professors, because as David was saying, like it's a very unbalanced power relationship that like when students have to approach their professors, because like your grade is decided by them and you really have no like authority in that regard. And so like the Dean of Students office, I think, is feeling very overwhelmed because there's a lot of new requests, and I think that they really need to reevaluate like the way that they're distributing the workload, and I think they need to look into having like a specific mediation like task force created. So if there's a way that we can get into contact with them, I think that's important. And I think that they would be open to hearing our ideas, because I'm sure they're struggling with this stuff.
Cool, thank you. I also saw that you put in the chat a student forum, which would be a great idea. I think also adding maybe people from like faculty council, maybe deans, adding them to that conversation so that they could hear directly from students. But I think that's a great idea. So thank you for that. I see a couple hands up, but I can't tell if that's just because you guys already had your hand up. So I can't tell if you guys still wanted to share anything else. Cool, thank you. So I still see Gami and then, okay, just kidding. Hands went down. If there's nothing else, thank you. I really appreciate all those feedback.
Say one more thing. I raised my hand again.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I would say, as someone who has been taking a lot of online classes over the years, including at other schools and including with substantially worse software, I'm sympathetic to the pedagogical challenges for professors who are not new to this, but online teaching is not new. Like it's been a thing for a long time, and correspondence courses before that. And people who have long chosen to take asynchronous online courses are used to being treated like adults. And this whole people like busy work, or what I was saying, micromanage, like making people busy by being like, do this, then this, then this, and this, and this. It's just like being assigned homework in high school. If this class doesn't have assigned class times and it's asynchronous, why is there a due date every day? Why it feels like we're being treated like children, and that's completely contrary to the way that asynchronous online classes are usually taught. Which I think is why it's so upsetting, is because I'm used to not having this issue with online classes. So it's the Johnny come lately professors coming in and being like, oh, well, I've decided that online learning is asynchronous online learning is different than what everyone else has been doing it for decades. So I don't know, it feels like sometimes we get treated like children. So, and I am very much not cool with that. I would not be spending so much time and so much money to be here if I didn't want to be here, if I was not an adult who makes choices in life, but is also disabled and has like federal civil rights that I have a right to have them accommodate me. But
thank you all.
Anyway, I can rant on that for an hour, so I'm gonna stop.
Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate you guys' feedback and all of that. And it's also good knowing that we're all not alone, that we're all struggling with this, and knowing that something has to be done. So love student government. I appreciate you all. So next we are going to move to our advising report by just Ariel. We don't have Courtney today, but just Ariel.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, just me today. It's so good to see you. I really don't have anything for you. Just keep being awesome, everybody. And I am happy that, Alyssa, that we were able to have that conversation because, yeah, definitely like in my one-to-ones, I have noticed that people are feeling really overwhelmed, that I know the quarter is really hard and people have so much going on. And, you know, you guys, I feel like there's a lot of people struggling. So I just want to like encourage you to, you know, just make sure you're like taking some time to do things that you want to do, take care of yourself, take a break from the screen, go for a walk, get some fresh air. Like Chicago winter will be coming soon enough, and you guys all do so much, like have so many things going on at once. So just remember to, like, self-care is very important, and you'll show up better for all your responsibilities. So end of rant. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, so next we will be moving to affirmations. If you guys don't remember what that is, message someone random, or not someone random. Of course, you can have intentional like messages, but someone else that you haven't messaged before, someone you don't talk too much, just an affirmation, encouraging them, saying hi, and just sending positive vibes. I am going to play music while we do this, and I'm going to play the same song as last week because I love them. It's my jam. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Bing dong, call me on my phone, nice tea, and I get my ping pong. This great, you know I blow up. Well, it's always so awkward to end it. It's BTS week on Jimmy Fallon, so I'm really like in a BTS mood. Also, I always am. Okay, so next is new business. So does anyone have any new business that they'd like to bring up? I see Leslie.
Yeah, I have some new business. So I would like to, a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little about the SHRAC resolution, and I want to bring that to the table, bring it off the table, talk about it again. I have some amendments to it that I want to make. So I don't know if you want me to share my screen with it, or we can talk about that, just because I have some amendments to it that were kind of pending based on the meeting that we had last week. We met with the chiefs of staff, so I have some updates to agree with it.
I made you a co-host, so you
Okay,
can share your screen.
I'll share the original. So this is not the original, I guess, but the actual document. So it's pretty much just the same as it was. There was a few minor changes. Minor as in like I changed this number here to 80% as opposed to like most stuff, but pretty much everything else in here is the same. The amendments, I'm gonna stop my share and share that. So I have those just in a Word document. So these would be just things that we've amended on there, just because once it was kind of sent from operations, there couldn't be any changes that were really substantive. So the kind of changes here are just updates based on the meeting. So we talked about a SGA budget committee. I'll explain that just so everyone is kind of on the same page. So faculty council and staff council both have budget committees who advise the representatives on TRAC, which is the people that vote on the actual university's budget. They have people that advise them within their councils. So they'll have like the people who sit on TRAC for faculty council is like the president plus I think just another representative. Those two people will kind of be with this committee, and the budget committee will be people from faculty council who are not necessarily on TRAC, who kind of advise them, be like, hey, here's what we think is good for the year. Here's our priorities, yada, yada. And then they kind of do that. So that was something that we kind of were recommended to do. So I kind of put a couple of things in here. I could read through them because they're rather short. But we kind of talked about the budget committee. I agree that I think it would be useful in crystallizing student opinions regarding like our budget priorities. But overall, I don't think it is necessarily a response to what the problem is, because regardless of what we set our priorities to be, as we kind of, for many of you who are still new or have been following SGA in the spring when we passed like the Chartwell's resolution, which was very clearly setting our priority where we go, we want the budget to give, not even that much money. It was like a few $1 million at most to Chartwell's workers, and they just flat out rejected it. And I think it is, of course, this budget committee would be great, but I am personally of the opinion that if we need more, it doesn't matter how great our priorities are set. If we don't have more seats on that committee, it's not going to happen ever. And like, yeah, we could try to win a few victories here and there, whatever you want to call it, but like, we're never going to get, if we don't have any more representation on it, like, regardless of how strong a list our WATFA are on that committee, it's really not going to matter. And I'm not even saying having 2 more extra seats will make it sure. So everything we want in the budget's going to happen, but it definitely gives us more bargaining power to agree. So this is kind of a revision to this, the kind of the resolution itself that adds this in here that yes, budget committee is cool, and I think it would be useful for us to do, but is not necessarily what the point of this resolution even was, at least when I was kind of writing it, I was kind of formulating it. So yeah, those are kind of the, I'll stop to share. I'm gonna motion to move into a discussion. So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay. Kelsey, would you be able to help me again?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm gonna move some folks to the waiting room. Waiting for them to join. Cool. Thanks to everyone who was waiting in the waiting room. So our resolution passed. Are there any other topics for new business that anyone would like to bring up? Cool. I don't see any hands. So we're going to move to comments, questions, and concerns for the good of the order.
I have something quickly. I sent it in the general Slack yesterday. BSU is doing like a voting initiative / efforts. So if anyone is interested in submitting a video, it's a 30-second video explaining why you vote, have voted in the past, and why you'll be voting for this upcoming election. It's a 30-second video, just looking for one more person to join. Thank you to Robbie, who's already doing it. So yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out to me.
and then we can get it going. Thank you, Jane. We'll be in touch. Oh, so I guess we can do 3. That works. Thanks, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, Keith. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? I do not see any hands. So with that, we will motion to adjourn at 7:46 p.m.
I think someone had one.
Wait.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, Jane, sorry.
I couldn't figure out how to put my hand up on my phone, so I put a little thumbs up. Sorry. Okay, so obviously elections are happening right now. They will be, all election materials are going to be due on the 14th at 5 p.m. So please encourage your friends and literally anybody you know to run for these positions. Not everyone you know, because be careful about who's in SGA. So spread the flyer, tell your professors to tell the class about elections, and just get out the word about elections. That's it for me.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, are there any other comments, questions, or concerns? I will check more thoroughly. So give me a second. Okay, I do not see anyone. Okay, so motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:47 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Beautiful. Thank you all. See you guys. Oh, no meeting next week. So good luck with midterms. I'll see you guys the week after.